studio. Very happy to have the Deputy Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Vadym Prystaiko, who had been there during all these talks. Not many journalists had a chance to really understand what was happening during this really long long discussion, but at the same time we're now following what's happening today. And while we read, for instance, tweets, and I'll give an example, there is one of the British journalists traveling together with our team. When we hear from Debaltseve and from the other cities and towns, that, for instance, there are some casualties, there are the mortar attacks. It's definitely calmer than it was a day before, but what is your idea? Is it a ceasefire? Are there any indication that it's happening? And what are the indications that the ceasefire is not really taking place?
I understand that the 100% ceasefire is a good thing to have, but unfortunately it's not always happening. It's not real to, not realistic to expect that everybody, especially those groups of separatists, whatever the name they will find for them, will follow the line which was told by Russia. There are some wild groups. At the same time, we hope that it will hold together for another 2 days at least, so we'll start to withdraw the heavy weapons. That's what the leaders agreed actually upon. So after 2 days of ceasefire, we will start to move the heavy artillery systems. And we're observing some cases, and I'm pretty sad about these casualties we already have, especially in Debaltseve. But we just, the leaders talk to each other over telephone and agreed that all parties should stick to the agreed ceasefire. And we hope that everybody will hear, because our military are not returning their fire. But they understand that there's some limits for this. If they are fired upon, they will.
So who are you speaking to, saying that the ceasefire would be respected in response to the shelling?
President Prystaiko just talked over the telephone with all three leaders, the same people he met a couple of days ago in Minsk.
So to President Putin?
Yes, or? President Putin, Merkel, and Hollande. And everybody told, yes, that's what we agreed upon, that's what we're having. And if you read the Russian press secretary, Mr. Peskov, he supported the same thing. He made it public that leaders are pushing for the ceasefire, and they expect that the ceasefire will be respected.
Including in Debaltseve?
Absolutely, everywhere. Everywhere Debaltseve is included. And Debaltseve, the word Debaltseve is included in his press statement. So it should be 100% clear for everybody that Debaltseve is that's the part which is on the Ukrainian side and is not to be fired upon.
Because this is, just to fill in our viewers, there had been a statement from Zakharchenko, one of these separatist leaders, where he had said Debaltseve was separate, that, the separatists have claimed they've surrounded it. The Ukrainians have said, no, we are able to bring in equipment, we're able to get people out. And their argument has been, we control this territory, this is an island within it, therefore the ceasefire doesn't cover that. But from what you're saying, there's international agreement that it's covered by the ceasefire. Yeah,
I have to remind, it's not about who's controlling what, although they're not controlling Debaltseve. The line is charted in Minsk in 19th of September. So that's the line. Debaltseve is on our side, whatever they are trying to tell, and that's what they were doing for the last 2 days after the Minsk. They were trying to get as much as possible before they have to stop shooting. That's all the attacks, all the accelerated attacks were aimed at this particular target, just to get as much to grab. They already grabbed almost 600 square kilometers after the line in Minsk was agreed upon.
Well, this is the interesting fact, because in Poroshenko's statement that we listened to, he was saying they wanted an immediate ceasefire, which is not what Minsk set up. It set up a ceasefire 3 days later, which many people, as you mentioned, said created an incentive for a land grab, for kind of desperate military moves to change that, to try and control areas. My question is, after the other ceasefire, even for the moments when it did function more or less, there was continual fighting around the Donetsk Airport, which separatists said was too close to their territory, which isn't covered. Is there a potential for Debaltseve to be a new Donetsk Airport where fighting will continue?
Yeah, there is possibility for this, and the Debaltseve is probably as important strategically as Donetsk Airport. There is maybe Mariupol is another point on the map, which is
Debaltseve because of the train links, correct?
That's one of the biggest train hubs in Europe. And it is very important to have for both sides. We still believe that everything is our territory, but they believe that they have to have airport, Debaltseve or Mariupol. That's why actually the attacks were targeted on both, on Debaltseve and Mariupol. But in Mariupol, our forces were just ready to see it and counterattack it. Now we have on Debaltseve the most heated point.
I see. And to ask, there, for many Ukrainians, there has been a lot of frustration with this peace arrangement. And, some people have asked, in Minsk, if we call it two, or this most recent agreement does not differ substantially from the first one that was signed in Minsk back in September. I mean, is this a bad peace arrangement? Has Ukraine gotten anything from it?
I wouldn't call it Minsk 2.0, as you call it in your announcement. It's not even 1.1. That's the process. We started in Minsk on the 5th of September. It was political agreement. Then in 9th, there were lines and dots on the map which will allow to see where it actually is, this action is going. This one is political sort of declaration of repeating the same positions, but at the same time, that's the first time when the leaders, including Mr. Putin, who was very important at this moment to tell, yes, I recognize this deal. Because previously, remember, it was signed by this Trilateral Group only. This time it's signed by leaders of the government, by endorsing the agreement.
What has been signed? Because what we understand, there are the complex of measures. And was any document signed by the leaders of the states?
Yeah, that's the very good diplomatic question. This is a difficult process because what we now observing is the process when Trilateral Group, so-called Trilateral Group, is talking and agreeing upon some things. And this document, which we're discussing today, which measures, whatever the package of measures, is signed by five signatures, and they're of representative of Trilateral Group. Leaders themselves, they endorsed this deal by telling that we respect and we stay behind this deal. And with our authority, we push the sides to respect and follow it.
We looked a bit into history and have mentioned that even in the end of the last century, there were no cases when the leaders of the state were negotiating for so long. Neither in Tehran, there were more breaks. So why the leaders of the state had to do that? Does it mean that there is no way to negotiate or to make any deal on any other level?
We've been doing it for quite a long time, and in Foreign Affairs we were trying to organize this deal before leaders have to sit at the table. But let's be frank, I mean, Russia is staying behind. We can't resolve it by talking to people in Donetsk only. Russia have to stop supplying the weapons and people and everything over the border and secure the border because it's border between Ukraine and Russia. It's not some distant country. And Germany and France is rather guarantors of this deal.
So explain us why it had taken so long, why so many hours were necessary, and what were the Russian demands? What were Putin's demands?
So many hours, we should count them in days, because what we've seen on TV, we were seeing only the leaders of the states to come to this huge palace in Minsk and finalize the deal. But even this finalization part took almost 14 hours to finish. I have to tell you that I was seeing the leaders talking. I was in the same room trying to help them to get to this point. But our teams, all 4 teams, were working for 3 days in a row before, trying to prepare this deal. And the leaders, they're supposed just to come and sign and put these signatures.
Well, that's what we're asking about, because I mean, this, to a certain extent, it seems like a breakdown of the normal interactions between states. You don't usually have the heads of state meeting to negotiate themselves. They fly in, they're busy, they sign things, kind of like rock stars, they fly out, and other people handle it. But I mean, it's interesting that it proceeds on this level. What I want to ask you about after we show a brief video is about the general atmosphere, because we have this video that I wanted to bring up now, just of President Prystaiko speaking to President Lukashenko of Belarus, where he's talking about this is, dirty and unfair game. So if we bring that up, just want to show that to our viewers. It went viral earlier this week, but just to give an indication of what some of the mood was there.
Все поняли.
What was the atmosphere with your colleagues like there? Are you able to speak to people from the Russian side? What is the mood?
Most of the diplomats would commend this particular clip, like 2 people looking like President Lukashenko, President Prystaiko were speaking with the voices, sounds like the voices of Lukashenko and Prystaiko. I'm just kidding. It's true that's what's happening, and your colleagues, journalists, were covering it extensively and bringing this truth. I have to tell you that we were trying to do it behind the closed doors on purpose, because the negotiations themselves so touchy, so sensitive. And I replying on what you just asked, what was actually on the table, why it took so long, because I believe that major point is Russia has to recognize to everybody and themselves first, to their population, that they actually fighting the war. Each and every time we were coming to something like, let's close down the border, they were saying, so do it. Okay, but we can do it without you because you are supplying. We are not there. And that's each and every time, that's, if you remember, in Brisbane, Prime Minister of Canada told Putin, get out of Ukraine. And the answer of Putin was, I can get out of Ukraine, I'm not there. So that's a point of principle. When we reach this understanding and Russia will tell, yes, we are there, it will be, everything will be much easier.
Have you reached it to some extent, or to which extent you have reached that kind of understanding when you were talking by what it happens by what sides try to show?
As Mr. Lukashenko just said, everybody knows that. Germans, France, Europe, United States, Australia, everybody knows that Russians are fighting now and supplying all this expensive, heavy artillery and everything. What we're trying to persuade, to give the leader of Russia way he will tell his own people that, yes, I'm actually fighting. And why I believe that it is possible, because he did it in Crimea. He told, if you remember, he was telling, no, we are not in Crimea. Then in a couple of months, yes, there were our soldiers in Crimea doing this.
Well, and some of that comes down to trust, and that's one, trust communications. Some of these are interlinked about what's happened. And because of that, spoken about it too much yet on the show, but the case of Nadezhda Savchenko. So this Ukrainian fighter pilot and officer who was a volunteer fighter fighting with Aidar in the east, yes. Who was then captured. Her version was she was transferred from separatists to Russia. Russia claims that she entered Russia legally, claiming to be a refugee, and has implicated her in the deaths of 2 Russian journalists, have put her on trial where she faces up to 20 years in prison. We have a brief video right now just to show her statement from earlier in the week. Maybe we can get that up just to show our viewers.
И тем более из таких национальных мотивов национальной ненависти, включая даже то, что они в принципе родом с Украины. Я узнала, что в России у меня есть много друзей. Я первый раз в России, сразу в тюрьме. Я никогда раньше, очень редко общалась именно с русскими людьми. Я получаю от вас письма. Я понимаю, что вы умеете мыслить. У вас действительно есть свое мнение. У вас развернутое воображение.
So we have that, unfortunately, without subtitles there, but the point is she was making an emotional appeal to the people there. Her emphasis was that she had nothing against Russians, but people who were misleading others, that was an issue. And the reason I bring that up with the issue of communication and trust is that when the Ukrainian officials had come out of Minsk, they really believed that in the Minsk agreements that it provided for Savchenko to be released, who's been on hunger strike for about 2 months now, and then the Russian officials said, no, it doesn't cover her. I mean, so what is going on there, and is that indicative of a broader situation?
Very good point, because that's what I believe completely showing the whole thing, the very core of the problem. Why was there, and I was proud to negotiate this particular point. I can reveal the secret. I believe that's the only one I can reveal for now. They were trying to put in this particular item that everybody detained should be exchanged for all principle, but everybody detained on the territory of Ukraine. I told, no, it's not on the territory of Ukraine. Everybody detained in a connection with what is going on in Ukraine, meaning that Savchenko is also covered. That took enormous time to get there. I understood what I'm trying to do, and I knew what I'm doing.
So that was, you made that clear in Minsk when these talks were going on?
We did it, not me personally, I was just on the tip of effort, but that's what was our idea. And it took us hours to negotiate with the negotiation team that we are not talking only about people in Ukraine territory right now. We're talking about everybody who was detained by...
So was it in agreement?
It is an agreement. If you see, there's everybody unlawfully detained.
So what will happen next? Because Nadia is on the hunger strikes. She will remain on the custody till March, till May, at least. But how will you raise this issue? We now will be fighting, showing them that, guys, whatever you believe in, you signed it, and please follow what you already approved. And coming back to particularly the deal, one of the points which probably some experts say the most important is the sealing of the border, which will take place just right after the election, which may take in autumn. It will take a lot of time. So my question is, why? Why it can be done by like a process, like transmission with some particular periods? Why wait so long?
A very good point, because we did it as the way you said. We told immediate control over the border, because it is even in the Minsk documents. If you read it, there is the security sort of corridor on the Russian-Ukrainian border monitored by OSCE. It is in the 19th of September. And we told them, please, people, we already have it. We already agreed upon it. Let OSCE go there and monitor it. We wanted it to have, they told, no, OSCE is not good, and the Ukrainian border guards is not good, because they believe that people on East, they are so afraid of everything that they will be killed tomorrow or slaughtered as pigs, even by unarmed OSCE. We told them that's completely, how can we find anything else? There's OSCE waiting, and you agreed that they will come and see what's going on the border.
So to sum up, we are on this stage with the Minsk agreement and with these debates. We will follow how ceasefire is held, but what are the demands of Ukraine? What are Ukraine wants and need from the West, from the partners, apart from this agreement?
We believe that the things which needed right away, we still need support, political support. We need economic sanctions. Just to avoid situation you just described, what would you do if they won't respect it? Like the thing with Savchenko. We want Europe and the world to understand that sanctions is a mechanism to make Russians to respect the deal we already have. At the same time, we need the defensive equipment, military equipment, so we'll be able to eradicate things like in Debaltseve, to be able to protect our people and make the ceasefire working. Everything else, financial help, reforms, everything which will allow us, we are bleeding not just with blood, but with money, with finances as well.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.